The second episode of, what is this, the
11th
season of New Doctor Who at this point, is called The Ghost Monument. After accidentally teleporting her 3 companions along with her to search for the TARDIS, the Doctor and her companions end up in open space. Half the group is saved by one passing ship and half the group is saved by the other. The group has gotten themselves caught in the middle of a race in which these 2 people are the finalists. They are racing to win an unfathomable fortune from some guy who's clearly meant to be a universal level 1%er. They end up on a desert planet with some scattered ruins where even the water is deadly. This planet is so dangerous that it puts a cap on the amount of time that they can spend here, and so they have to move fast, which is fitting considering that this is a race. The Doctor is, of course, wondering how they ended up here when they were attempting to teleport directly to the TARDIS, until she hears about the goal of the race, something called the Ghost Monument, a short blue tower which intermittently appears and disappears on the planet's surface. She and her companions stick with the 2 people who are actually racing in this race as they traverse the planet's surface and learn its secret history, that the very same species that she encountered in the previous episode brought scientists from throughout the universe to this place to develop deadly new types of weapons. The Doctor is, of course, appalled because this version of the Doctor, more so than any past version, is very anti-weapon, but that is another thing that I will be talking about in just a few minutes. Various enemies are encountered, the remnants of the things that these scientists developed, and the Doctor uses her wits to defeat them all, and eventually she does get to the TARDIS. After she, of course, convinces the 2 who are competing in the race, who are both very boisterous and very proud and both want very much to win, but who are both not bad people, that sharing the prize rather than one of them being left on this planet to die would be beneficial. And we do get to see the new TARDIS exterior and interior before the episode ends. It was a pretty average episode of Doctor Who. There wasn't anything really spectacular about it, but an average episode of Doctor Who is still a really great episode of television. So I quite enjoyed this one. However, what I said in the previous review, that I have some reservations about this version of the Doctor's character, this is where most of them come from. This version of the Doctor claims to be a pacifist, like an actual true 100% pacifist. She even claims that at some point in her life she trained in a martial art which specializes in pacifism. She even uses it in this episode on the male competitor in the race. I don't remember what his name was, and I don't really care to go check either. With just a single touch to his neck, she is able to paralyze him for the duration of the time that she's in contact with him. And I'm sorry, Doctor, but I've got something to tell you. That's still violence. You're still exerting force on another person's body without their consent. You're still being violent towards them. And then later, when you encountered those talking ribbony weapon things on the surface and you distracted them long enough for your companions to kill them for you in the way that you had planned for them to do, that was also violent. You were still being violent towards these things which were at least intelligent enough to hold a conversation with you. They're at least as intelligent enough as any other artificial life form we've seen in this series up to this point. You, Doctor, are clearly not a pacifist, at least not 100% a pacifist, and that makes you a hypocrite. Like, I get it, the Doctor's always been a character who, despite being anti-violence, understands that sometimes violence is necessary, but no other Doctor has ever been so outspoken against violence, has ever been so outspoken about the fact that they don't believe in violence as a solution at all. Like, there's a scene in this episode where Ryan picks up a gun to defend his friends and family, and the Doctor scolds him for it and claims that the gun is absolutely not an answer and never will be and never was. And that's just not true. I'm someone who believes that guns should only ever be used as a last resort, that violence in and of itself should only ever be used as a last resort, that every other avenue should be explored first. But I still understand that sometimes violence is necessary. And it does seem from the context of this episode that the Doctor still believes that. She just claims otherwise. I'm sorry, Doc, but your principles don't stop being principles just because they're inconvenient for you. And again, like with the past episode, I'm worried that the writers don't realize that this is how they're writing the character. But if they are writing the character like this on purpose, and this is some part of her arc, I am super excited about that. This is a contradiction that's always been part of the Doctor's character, and I'd love to see it explored in depth. Between the possibility of that and the fact that, once again, even minor characters in this episode were painted as real people. We got to know them really well. We came to sympathize and empathize with them really well, and I wanted to see them succeed by the end. This was another excellent episode of New Doctor Who. I don't have much more to say about it, in fact, other than that. It was a good, solid episode of Doctor Who that was of pretty average and sometimes above average quality. Though as good as the rest of this episode was, the final scene of the episode where the Doctor finally reunites with her TARDIS and they even carry on something of a conversation with each other before we get to see the new interior, that was the best scene of the episode. It made the episode for me. Like, honestly, if episodes of this show keep to this level of quality, I think the entire season will be pretty great. But I don't expect them to keep to this level of quality. I expect them to get better. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that happen. Let's cross my fingers that I'm right. As per usual, though, guys, I'd like to know, what do you think of this episode of Doctor Who, The Ghost Monument? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.